Welcome to the Lost Transmissions Out of the Archives interviews.
You're listening to WPNR 90.7 FM, Utica College Pioneer Radio. My name is DJ Cricket, and right now I have on the phone a person that needs no introduction, but I'm going to try. He's the guitarist, who was the guitarist of My Chemical Romance. He's releasing his debut solo album, Remember the Laughter, November 18th, the one and only Ray Toro.
Hey, how's it going, man?
It's going amazing. How are you doing right now, actually?
I'm doing really good. Excited to talk to you. Excited to talk about the record.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that. So, first question I typically ask everybody: how would you describe the sound of the record in 5 words or less, if you had to?
Oh man, how about inspiring, eclectic, I don't know if I could come up with 5 more.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of put you on the spot there, so my bad. I'll let those words slide for now. So
yeah, hopefully people will get that. You know, that it's definitely eclectic. I think the music is all over the place, and then hopefully people will take some inspiring messages, inspiring words from it too.
Yeah, definitely. And you've been working on this album, I would say, since 2013. So, and this is actually. You primarily wrote this album, produced it, engineered it, played on it with some help with there, and mixed it as well with some help.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been like definitely like a wild ride, over the past 3.5 years, and it's been off and on. Like I'd have some weeks or like some months of like high productivity, and then just like taking care of family things and working on other projects go like kind of dormant for a few months here and there. So it's definitely been like off and on kind of thing. But it was actually good for me because there was a lot of things that I needed to learn as a solo songwriter, as a singer, as a lyricist. There's a lot of things that I had never done myself before. And there was a kind of like a pretty big learning curve, I feel, with that. Like the music side of things, I felt like I had a good grasp on. But it was like things like that, like how to emote as a singer, how to express myself in lyrics, and then also like find the right amount of syllables to fit in certain lines, things like that. And then also like the engineering side of it as well. I recorded, I'd say like 90% of the record from my home studio. I have a small 2-story guest house that I work from, and it's kind of cool, like experimenting that way, like seeing what tones and what sounds I could get, and like this, but really it's just like it's more like a guest house. It's not like a studio. Studios are set up, treated with soundproofing and everything like that to make everything sound good. So I just was kind of like taking my space and seeing what I could learn and figure out as an engineer. And I just really like experimenting and learning new things, so that it was a cool opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to experimenting and working on trying to do these things that you've had help with, which aspect of the process was harder than the others?
I think the singing for sure, and the lyric side of it. That's, again, like that's just something I've never done. Anything that I've ever done in the past was, backup vocals. So there's a lot of nuances to singers and singing properly that I think people who've never done it before wouldn't know, and I never knew before myself. So I was lucky to work with Doug McKean, who he engineered Black Parade and also Danger Days, and I did 2 songs with him. And that's he was like a huge help for me, not only like in the engineering side, because he's a great engineer, gets like incredible drum sounds, guitar tones, like he's awesome at that. But he's like a really great vocal producer as well. I know Gerard has always enjoyed working with him, and this was like the first opportunity I did behind the mic. And he just had like a lot of great advice on how to project properly and how to enunciate properly. There's so many like little nuances. So he was like a huge help, and I kind of took what he said in those sessions that I did with him and kind of brought that to the other sessions that I did it myself at home.
Mm-hmm. And to jump in and start talking about the album itself a little bit, I know some people are going to probably flip when I say this, but I got a chance to actually sit down and listen to Remember the Laughter. And it is amazing. You released an amazing record.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I mean, it was cool. You know, it's been cool, like, to share it with, like, a few people. You know, it's like a select few people, and it's been important to me. I feel like for anybody, you know, that I do get the chance to do an interview with, I'm really happy to share the music with them so they can kind of get their take and ask me questions about it. So I'm really, really, really proud and pleased that you enjoyed it.
No problem. And the thing about it is, the one thing I really enjoyed about the album is it sounds very diverse, because you have some of the like guitar heavy rocking tracks, but you work a lot. There's some like bluesy songs in there. Like one that's coming to mind with me is We Saved, which I love that one as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones for sure.
But also with that too, like listening through the whole thing, it feels like there's like a connective tissue to it. It feels like it's all one overarching story. So was there ever a clear concept when writing this album from the beginning?
No, you know, it's funny. No, I think the concept gelled for me more later in the writing process. It's kind of funny. Like earlier on, I was actually, because I have like, maybe like another 15 to 20 songs that I either, haven't finished fully or I felt like didn't fit on this record. But my original idea, because of the diversity of the material, was to release 3 smaller EPs, and kind of associate them with a color and kind of try to match the song styles with each other, but I kind of found that boxed them in a little bit. And when I just took a step back at all the material, I'm kind of like, okay, well, what's the real connective tissue here? And I found like the best songs and the ones that really stuck out to me were the ones that were thematically linked. And like the link there is, it's really, a lot of the songs ended up being things that I felt like I would want to pass on to my son, things that I've learned about the world, either through my parents or, myself as like just getting older over the past like 3.5 years. And that was kind of interesting too. Like one of the benefits of taking 3.5 years to work on the project is I've not only did I grow as like, as a songwriter, I feel, and like learning how to sing better, but also as a person. I pay a lot more attention to what's going on in the world right now, because what's going on not only affects me and my friends and everybody, but I have this kid that I'm responsible for, and I have to raise, and I have to set a good path for him and be a good example for him. So that's what I found, like thematically, a lot of the songs. That's how I felt like I could link them. So then, just thinking a little bit more about it and kind of thinking about my parents, that's when I hit on like the idea of like this memory box that has all these different items, from, say my past or like my parents' past, or at least not more the character in the story. And that's kind of the thread that links all the songs together.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of the thread that links all these songs together, all throughout the album, you had like these little transitions, like tracks like Wedding Day, Ascend, and Father Day, which are like very just like general, like different audio tracks, and you lead into songs very seamlessly. When did adding the transitions come in the writing process? Did the songs come first, or was there like, hey, I want to do this and lead into that?
Yeah, so the transitions actually came later in the process, and I think that was like once I came up with the idea of, okay, these are the songs that fit on the record and kind of have some connective tissue. Then I felt like I needed to add a little bit more to really kind of tie it all together. And then like I ended up finding this like little wind up merry-go-round toy that I had bought like maybe, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years ago. So that's like a melody that you hear later on in the record. And that's sort of, and you can see it too, if you go to my website, like some of the imagery on the website is connected to the songs and the and the interludes that you hear on the in the artwork for the record, and then you'll see a picture of a memory box that I put together, and there's like items from, you know, that kind of like connect to the songs inside the memory box. So I try to make it, you know, as much as I could, a little bit of a cool world where you can, you know, kind of like if fans want to dig in a little bit more and like kind of get a magnifying glass and look at some of the, you know, some of the pictures up close, they can kind of find what connects to the songs. And that's like, I don't know, when I always feel like when to release an album, I think is like a really special and unique thing. And the last thing I wanted to do was just release, you know, kind of a bunch of songs. I more look at it as releasing a complete body of work. And I felt like doing those transitions really, you know, took that element of it and took it to like the next level. And, you know, now I'm just excited for like kids to put on headphones and like pick out different sound effects that they may hear happen once and kind of come up again. And, you know, it's kind of dig into it. It's doing a little investigative listening to it.
And it's really funny you talked about that, because I kind of did that with two songs in particular. When it came to Wedding Day, there was like that, there's like a little like, it's like generic wedding sounds. Like you hear the wedding music, you hear a bell, and it slowly evolves into something. I don't want to spoil what happens in the next track, but the fact that the bell's still like very present there, I loved hearing something like that and kind of having that say that it feels like an overarching story.
Yeah. Again, like, you know, one of my huge influences, I talk about it all the time, is The Wall by Pink Floyd. Like, you know, I think that's like to me, like the epitome of a concept record. And I don't know if I'd ever want to go that far, because, you know, I feel like you can get, it doesn't, I guess boxing in is a bad way to say it, but, you know, there's a little less freedom. I think like with something like The Wall, it is like very, the beginning of the story and the end of the story. And I tried to go for that a little bit, but I feel like your songwriting, not that it suffers, but it can change if you try to stick too much to that map. So I really tried to focus on like writing tight songs and tight arrangements from the start of it, and then just finding the themes to link it. So that's super cool. Like that was one of the more fun things to do, doing the transitional things, because I feel like, I like to think of music and think of audio very cinematically. It's hard for me to put songs together and put those transitions too. Like the whole time I'm picturing what's happening. And, that's kind of what I want the listener to feel as well. Like once they put, you know, however they want to listen to it, whether it's late night in the car or, you know, with some headphones and you know, in their bedroom, or however you want to listen to it. Like I'd love for people to just kind of close their eyes and lose themselves and kind of, you know, create your own world and connect it to your own memories and your own experiences. And that's the great thing about music, is it's the shared art that we all get to make our own. And, you know, I can't wait for people out there to get their hands on it.
And I feel like the best way to describe the album is, to me, it felt very nostalgic, but also very relevant and very modernist, I would say.
Yeah. I'm glad you picked up on that. You know, the best, you know, the best songs and the reasons why they did stick out and make the record is because, you know, the whole time I'm thinking ahead of like, what I would tell my son, and then, but also like thinking of how my parents treated me and raised me as well. And so the lessons that I learned from my parents, and the reason why I am who I am, is because of my parents. And I want to do just as good a job with my son as my parents did with me. So there's definitely like that, you know, that idea of like nostalgia. And, you know, it's hard. Once I had a kid, it's hard not to think about your parents, and the struggles that they had gone through. And, you know, just as something as simple as like putting food on the table. Like when you're a teenager, and obviously younger, but like when you're a teenager, you don't really think about how hard it is to get up, you know, 5:30, 5 o'clock in the morning every day, like my dad did, to go to work, for 9-10 hours just to make money enough to put food on the table for you. And you don't think about that, but you start thinking about that when you get older. So it elevates the appreciation you have for your parents. And I think once you have a kid, and the love and respect you have for them just grows that much more.
And also, speaking of the music you've been releasing, like, even though you've just released Remember the Laughter coming up soon, you've also been releasing music for like the last 3 years with like The Lost and the Brave, for dedicated to Leela Acorn, Hope for the World recently, and Isn't That Something? Like, when releasing those at those times, obviously you had like ideas behind what was going on and saying, hey, this is something that's very relevant to what's happening. But how did you feel knowing that, like, hey, like, I have a piece of work that's very relevant to issues I'm seeing in the world and how it expresses how I feel about this issue? How did you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, those songs were definitely like, when I released them, like, sort of, maybe not so much Isn't That Something, but definitely for The Lost and the Brave and Hope for the World, like, they're very reactionary songs. And it was weird because, you're writing songs at home and coming up with lyrics, and like, they kind of like live in a box. And a lot of times, like, the normal, I guess, like, record cycle or, kind of like method of releasing material is like you record a collection of songs, you hold off on it. I don't know how much people know about like the record making process, but even for me, obviously it took a while because I did it myself and I had like starts and goes. But even like your average record could take 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, a couple of months. But then there's like all this time that passes after the songs are even recorded, where they have to get mixed, they have to get mastered, and then they have to get pressed. And then, so like months and months can go by sometimes. And I felt like that could have happened, like, say, like, for The Lost and the Brave may have been on the record, but, we live in a time where we can release music digitally and it's out there in the world and in the world stream, and you don't have to wait. And I feel like, for The Lost and Brave and Hope for the World too, Hope for the World is on the record, but I felt it was important, just with everything that was going on, to put it out there earlier. We have a cool opportunity as musicians and artists to express ourselves and get it out right away, as opposed to like holding off on it. And that's the thing with, I feel like people's attention spans are really short nowadays. And, any opportunity you can have to make some noise, and grab people's attention, you have to do, and you have to jump on that.
So I wanted to talk about you releasing the first, I would say, single, for lack of a better term, Take the World. When it came to releasing that as the first song after the announcement of Remember the Laughter, why did you pick that as the song to kind of say, hey, this is the direction we're going?
I ended up picking it because I thought I feel like it was like a good bridge gap, I would say, from, maybe like some of the material people know me from my chem. But also there's like it's my stuff and like my take on things and, my voice. So there's the newness factor, but I feel like there's a little bit of nostalgia in the way the song sounds. And also I feel like the lyric itself and what the song is about, I think it's very pertinent to, like we're coming around like voting time, and it's like we're kind of given this choice here. And I think it's important for young people to realize how important they are in all this. And we don't have to do things the way our forefathers did things. We don't have to do things the way our prior generations did things. We can do things differently when we can do things better. And I think that's important for, and that thematically too is in a few of the songs. Like, I feel like that's what I want my son to know. His voice is important and I want him to use it. So that's kind of why I put the song out first.
And primarily you've been like working on Remember the Laughter, but in the time you've been kind of like holding off on it, I know you've also been doing collaborations with Toro on his track, Oh My God. You did some guitar on that. Mm-hmm. Also, recently you had a track with Gerard Way released. I forgot the name of the track. I don't think there was, but
it's Into the Cave We Wander.
Mm-hmm. With tracks like that, like, do you feel more used to collaborating now, or have you grown accustomed to kind of saying, I'm willing to work more on my own stuff?
I mean, yeah, like doing the stuff with Voltaire was. I feel like that was like one of the first collaborations that I had done with anybody outside of My Cam or any other bands that I had been a part of prior. And that was a really cool experience, I think, because he had a vision of what he was going for. Like he was going kind of for like a sort of like a big kind of goth rock album. And, and that's why he came to me on a couple of songs, because he wanted my style of guitar playing. And he was great. Like, he told me what he was looking for, and I did my best to make that happen. And so that was a cool experience. That was the first time I've ever worked with anybody in that way. And then the song that I did with Gerard, like, I mean, that was just like a real pleasure and joy to get to work with him again and be in the studio. I mean, we had a ton of laughs. Like we couldn't stop laughing at the song because, we were going for, a very distinct sound and, mood. And so it's kind of like you get to stretch yourself as a musician. It's like, how do I make that happen? How do we make it sound authentic from like a 60s nature documentary? How do we make the song sound like something that could be played in a documentary like that in the background? I love that. I love exploring different sides of me. Like I said before, I like experimenting with different sounds and different techniques. And, I feel like it's that thing that keeps an artist young, keeps a musician young. It's like that. My body's getting older, but I want my mind and my creativity to stay fresh. And I think the best thing that we can do as artists and musicians, whatever happens to be doing, is like always looking for that next thing and always trying something different. And doing collaborations like that, does keep you fresh. And at the time, I would say, especially doing the track with Gerard, like I definitely was ready to do something with someone else. I don't know what I would say, like if I prefer doing things on my own or with other people. I think that they're just two different things. But definitely timing wise, I was definitely ready to step into a studio with other people. Because a lot of the music in the last 3.5 years or so was me, working late night and, when I had a chance alone. Which has, there's a lot of benefits to that, but there also, you miss that human interaction and exchange of ideas that you get when you're working with other people.
And you were talking about making sure that you're always young. Like, to stay young, you need to look forward. The thing I want to ask is, how are you looking forward? What are some of the things you want to do in 2017?
Well, for 2017, I'm definitely looking forward to playing these songs live. That's like the next, piece of the puzzle, like to figure out. I feel like the last 3.5 years was, off and on, like figuring out the recording and figuring out the right songs and the right lyrics, that side of things. And now I have a little bit of downtime to figure out how I want to do the songs live. And so that's like the next, I'm definitely looking forward to that in 2017. I said in another interview, I have like some ideas of how I would like to do it. If that doesn't come to fruition, that, I'm still definitely gonna play the songs out live, because, that's another thing I miss. Like, not only did I miss working with other people in the studio side, but I miss playing live for people, because I feel like that's really when the songs, it's like you record a record, and it's like, up until the moment you put your album out, they're yours. But once you put the songs out and the record out into the universe, they're everybody's. and now everybody can share in that experience. And I'm excited to see how the songs change and what life they take on once I get to share them with people in a live setting. So I think that's the thing I'm musically the most I'm looking forward to for 2017.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to say, with after listening to that whole album, I'm going to speak for the general populace that I'm very excited, and I believe that the people, when they listen to this album, are very much going to enjoy what they're going to hear.
I really appreciate that. Again, I'm glad I got to share it with you early, and it's cool chatting with you about it. It's something I'm very proud of, and I put a lot of work into it, and I hope people hear that, and ultimately I hope people find those themes that I cared about and what I decided to write about, and I hope that people find some connection to that, and kind of gets them thinking about, whether they have kids or not, or if they're thinking about kids and maybe just in the future. I hope people can kind of connect to those themes and messages, and just make some good of that.
Mm. And we're about to introduce this track, Take the World, on Pioneer Radio for the first time ever. But this is college radio. We're fanboys and fangirls. Can you give us a little shout out and say something like, hey, this is Ray Toro and you're listening to WPNR 90.7 FM?
Yeah. Hey, this is Ray Toro and you're listening to WPNR 90.7 FM.
That is perfect. And my people are looking at me cheering because of that.
Oh, good. I got everything right. I don't know how I did that.
You typically get people that are like, you're listening to WNPR. No. And I'm like, no. Wrong station.
Yeah. But I'm glad I got it. I'm glad I got it right for you. Cool.
Thank you. But we're going to premiere Take the World for the first time on Pioneer Radio. Was there anything you'd like to say before we introduce it? Thanks so much, anybody who tuned in to listen to the interview. And, like I said, I don't know if it was on air before, but it's a real honor for me to be able to, to do interviews with college stations. Cause you guys, this is truly you guys love music. And I think it's really amazing what all you guys do. All you guys and girls, I know. So I just always say, guys, all you guys and girls who work at college stations, I think it's real important the work you do. When I first started getting into music deep, it was always listening to college radio. So, I just appreciate the airplay. Appreciate the interview. Thank you so much. No problem. And make sure to pick up Remember the Laughter, where all great music is sold, November 18th. Here's Take the World on Pioneer Radio for the first time.
Keep up with Lost Transmissions on Facebook at Lost Transmission Show or on Twitter at L_Transmissions.